Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Adam Miller, and here with our own social media influencer, Jim Fitzsimmons. So glad to be here with everybody. Plan to cover several topics today in our live stream, and then hopefully answer as many questions as we can get through. So please, submit your questions online, and we'll be reviewing those and try to cover as much ground as possible today. Before we hit questions, we're going to hit on a few topics. Those include giving a market update, so where we're at currently in the market, what we see for the remainder of the year. Talk a little bit about driver appreciation, what's coming up. We're excited about that. Just about a couple weeks away from that going live. And then we'll give an update on trailers and what we're doing to improve the technology, the ability to find trailers, touch a little bit on our Zonar technology and some updates we've done there, and even touch on the surveys that we have going out and what that means to our business and why we really want to increase participation. That really helps us, drive our decision making. First of all, we didn't plan the blue shirts.
Nope, not at all.
Didn't realize we had the blue background either. So hopefully we don't look like hopefully don't look like floating heads here. But hey, we'll jump right into it. So first of all, market update. We're headed into the fourth quarter here soon, and we're starting to see the trends that typically occur as you get into the mid third quarter. The freight environment has changed so much over the last 4 or 5 years. We saw a dramatic change, really right after COVID picked up. And the last 2 years really has been almost like peak season the entire time. And so we've seen the market come into more of a normal kind of environment, as relation to supply and demand. And so we're seeing some seasonality that you would typically see, following the end of the second quarter, really following the 4th of July. So we did see freight get a little bit lighter, and it was a little bit tougher to find as many loads as we'd like. But now that's starting to pick up, and we're seeing your traditional seasonality as we get into, head into September here this coming week, and starting to see the import locations really pick up and other locations across the country. So we're feeling much better about where freight volumes are, and we feel like we're going to be well positioned to keep our trucks productive and have a very safe and successful fourth quarter. I would ask to our drivers that you remain flexible, right? We don't have as many choices in terms of freight as we did for the last 2 years. It's still going to be strong, but maybe not as many options in terms of load tenders. So we just ask you to be able to serve different markets that maybe you wouldn't typically want to head into, but to be flexible, because our goal is to keep you as productive as possible so you can generate the biggest paycheck. And even looking at some of the available hours you have, in some markets, you may have an opportunity to haul a local load if you have hours available when you come into a market. So I'd ask your driver leaders, I'd ask the planners if there are any of those opportunities. It allows us to pay you for that local freight, as well as put more productivity on the truck. So I think just be flexible as we work through this market. But hey, it's shaping up to have, I think, a strong fourth quarter. So we're excited about that.
Yeah, and keep in mind, there's a lot of opportunities within Swift. The driver replacement team could tell you about those different opportunities. If you're looking to be more regional, maybe local, dedicated within your home market, there's always new opportunities coming up. So if we don't have something today, doesn't mean we won't have it, a few weeks or a few months from now. So keep those options open.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll talk on the Driver Appreciation Week. So, that's coming up. We kick it off September 11th. Actually, we're going to be doing another wrap truck unveil here in Phoenix, and so that'll be a really neat deal. We're doing a memorial basically on September 11th, and so we've trucks being wrapped right now. We've got the driver that's going to be driving that truck around picked out. We'll have the fire department out here for a neat unveil on that Sunday, and then Driver Appreciation Week kicks off, that following Monday, the 12th. And so, we're posted on Swift Transmission. It's going to continue to update. Each terminal will have different activities, different times they're doing breakfast, lunch, dinner throughout the week. But again, the goal here is if you could get through a terminal, we'd love to have you stop by in person. It's not about getting you a free lunch or free breakfast. It's more about spending some time with you, having our office staff, kind of stop what they're doing, take some time out of the day and spend it with our hardworking drivers out there. So that's really what it's about. I've said it before, we don't just do it this, 1 week out of the year. We try to do this every week, all year long. But this is a week where we really kind of pump the brakes and make a concerned effort to get out there and spend some time with each and every driver that comes through a terminal.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite weeks of the year. I mean, it's just such a great event. We've got a ton of people who put a ton of effort into making it special for our drivers, and so I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, and with COVID, things kind of changed, right? In 2020, we couldn't really do much. That kind of morphed into us using a lot of food trucks, and quite honestly, I think the food truck's been kind of a neat option to a lot of terminals where you get a little bit different variety than the old days. I think back, and driver appreciation used to be barbecue on Friday afternoon for lunch, and that was kind of it. So we've kind of morphed this into a much bigger deal, so we could try to touch more drivers. And I apologize to those drivers that don't make it through a terminal. I know you can't always make it through during normal hours when something's going on. We've been trying to do a lot more boxing up lunches, boxing up dinners. So if you get through after hours, we try to have something there for you.
Great. No, thanks, Jim. Appreciate the update there. One area we wanted to touch on is trailers. As we go through a lot of the surveys from our drivers, we're always identifying what are some of the topics we hear consistently, and trailer availability, trailer conditions are the topics that we see in many cases. And so I want to talk a little bit about what we're doing to invest in that area. Trailers are probably one of the biggest pain points as it comes to our drivers and being productive in some cases where they're not available where we need them, or you find a trailer and it's down for a certain reason. So we've invested in purchasing about 7,000 trailers this year. We should receive, I think, most of them by the end of this year. Now, we wouldn't typically invest in trailers when we're not growing our tractor fleet. Our tractor fleet today is relatively stable. I think the ability to hire labor has improved, and so that has helped us keep that truck count stable. And traditionally, we would keep a similar number of trailers so we can be mindful of our trailer to tractor ratio. But today we feel there's such a strategic advantage of having more trailers, investing in that technology that can support finding trailers, that we put the capital to work so that our drivers will feel that they have a better option when it comes to finding a trailer. Our goal is for when our drivers have an available load, it's easy for them to find a trailer. And so we're building out technology to leverage the telematic devices that come with those trailers and being able to easily send that information to our driving associates, for our operations team to have easy access to that information as well. So it's a relatively new technology that we've developed. I think we've rolled that out on our transmission page. We've talked about it with our operations staff. So we're hoping that you can leverage that technology, at least our driving associates and our operations staff, to be much more efficient with our hours that are available to drive, because it's easy to find a trailer. But we also know, as we're investing in trailers and we're not selling trailers because we want to scale our trailer pools, we'll be running trailers that are a little bit older than what they've historically been. And that may lead to, some trailers that we identify as not roadworthy at certain customer pools, even at our own locations. If a driver finds that, we ask that they would just do a macro 38, which would then send that information to our shop admin team. And then they help coordinate, the repair of that trailer. And it may depend on what the issue is. The goal is that they're all addressed within 24 hours. Some repairs take a little bit longer depending on what the issue is. But we're making a very big investment in our shop techs and this our process flow to ensure that we are reacting to the macro 38s when we have a trailer that isn't roadworthy. And our goal is to get to a point where a driver does the macro 38 and he or she receives an update when the repair is complete, so that they know that when they notified us and we took action, we were able to complete the service on the trailer that would make it roadworthy. So because of the survey information we've received from you, we're taking a lot of actions around trailer to hopefully make your life easier on the road.
Yeah, definitely. I'll touch on surveys and voice your choice. So hopefully you're already aware, but voice your choice is something that's out there all the time. Anytime you want to give feedback, both good and bad. One question I get quite a bit from our new drivers when we do the orientation, the live orientation, is who looks at that? And it's kind of neat because really everyone looks at that. So that rolls up from the terminal all the way as high as Adam looking at it. And trust me, we make decisions, we make changes. That information drives a lot of changes at Swift. And so we love getting feedback. We love getting your opinion on things, what's working, what's not working, what can be improved. So continue to give us that feedback. every year we do a bigger, more in-depth survey, and that's going to go out the week of driver appreciation. And so do us a favor, take the time to fill out that survey. And I know it's going to take you a little while. We try to shorten it up, but quite honestly, the bigger it is, the more detail we can get, the more direct action we can take. Because when you start to survey thousands of employees, you start to see patterns. And so that's the great thing with sending these out. The more information you give us, the more kind of concrete information we have on where are pain points, where are areas we need to go kind of focus on and improve things.
Yeah, because at times we're making assumptions based on anecdotes, things we've heard from individual drivers, but sometimes that doesn't line up when you look at the surveys to see what the overarching issues are. So certainly that helps us direct our investment in time and capital when trying to improve the job for our drivers.
Yeah. And, speaking of, we continue to get a lot of feedback on the Zonar, so I'll let you hit on that.
Yeah. So Zonar has been something we've rolled out here for about a year now, and hey, it hasn't been without its challenges, and hey, we recognize that. We're putting a lot of work, a lot of investment in time in trying to improve that product, and we want our drivers to have the best experience they can have in a cab, and we won't rest until that's the position we're in. So we've made some updates on the navigation, hopefully avoiding the curly cues. We've sent a survey out to get some feedback on that update. And I think generally it was positive, but we still have some room to improve. But it does seem like we've reduced the number of curly cues, but we know the navigation isn't perfect. And we're working with our navigation provider to give them feedback and hopefully continue to improve that product. We know there's also issues on the logging devices, the Zonar hours of service. We're working very closely with the Zonar team. We've identified what some of the challenges are. They've got resources that are working on fixing those issues. And again, I'm committed to ensure that we put a great logging device into the cab of the truck. And so we won't rest until that is completed. And we're trying to partner with Zonar to ensure that we can make those adjustments and ensure that our drivers can be safe over the road and not have an hour of service violation.
Yep. Another area that we've got a lot of feedback over the years, and we've made a lot of change, is around the weekends and the after-hour support. And so that's an area that we continue to improve. One way we're improving that is we're adding more part-time employees. And so in the past, we had all full-time, and so you had the same amount of employees here, whether it's a peak or whether it's the slow part of the early morning. And so now what we're doing is just basically kind of focusing on when are the peak volumes, and then we're using part-time employees so that we could ramp up how many people we have answering the phones, answering the messages on the computers, and then not have so many people when it gets to the slow time at early morning hours. So we'll continue to improve that process, but again, feedback is kind of what tells us how we're doing there and where do we need to improve.
Yeah, we're trying to be more dynamic with that group and staff it when we need to respond. But when you don't want to have idle time and people waiting around not having a lot to respond to. So we're trying to just be very nimble and we'll keep tracking the phone logs, but also tracking the experiences our drivers are having.
Right. Here we'll hit some of the questions that are popping up here. So Christian asks, how about the load board? I assume he's talking about the owner-op load board. Do you want to hit on that?
Yeah, we're making actually some really good progress on the load board. I think we're close to being able to test it with some owner operators. Just putting together the logic, trying to figure out how we handle empty miles, or some things that we're still working through on it, but very close. I think the team's excited about the recent progress, and we look forward to testing it. I know we've been talking about it for quite some time. There's a lot to it. We want to make sure it's a really good product, but it's very high on the prioritization list in terms of the areas that we have our IT team focused on.
Right. Another question here. New CDL holder here. Would Swift hire a newbie? So absolutely. We hire, brand new drivers, no experience. We hire experienced drivers. So we kind of hire it all. If you're interested in Swift, we've got the number posted for Swift recruiting. But by all means, give us a call and we'll kind of tell you what your different options would be.
Yeah,
whether you need to go to truck driving school, you can do the whole thing here at Swift.
Yeah, we have a great mentor program. Mm-hmm. I think the best in the industry, but we also have one of the most experienced driver groups as well, probably the more million-mile drivers than any other company in the country.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Here's an issue. I know we're working on this. Comment from Ron. One big issue I've found with trailers is customers refusing to release empty trailers to us. And I know we just had that discussion not more than a week ago. And so, Ron, I'll tell you that that's probably going to be always kind of a challenge because you're dealing with an individual in a guard shack that might think that's their trailer, but at the end of the day, that's a Swift asset. So we're working on ways that we want to make sure we're dealing with it properly. We don't want to upset a customer, but when it comes down to the end, if we need that trailer, we need to be able to pull that trailer out of that customer location. So know that there's some efforts going into that as well.
Yeah, and we're working on part of the trailer technology that we're working on is to be able to track our customer pools and what we've committed to and really what is justified based on the volume we've been seeing. And so sometimes we do need to adjust the trailer pool based on the volume. And so we need to utilize that technology in our customer accounts team to be able to communicate to customers. So if you feel that, if you see that, if you experience something similar to that, please communicate to your driver leader who can connect to the right customer person so we can handle it with that specific customer.
Yeah, perfect. Here's something I know we got new technology to help us with. What happens if we send a Mac 38 and then someone takes it after the fact?
Yeah, so that's one of the things I should have touched on. When we do a Mac 38, we want to make sure we don't take that trailer, on the road because our on-road team is going to be out there looking to try to find it to repair it. Now with the new tracking technology that we have better maps for our shop to be able to identify where a trailer is. So if there is a Mac 38 and that trailer ends up moving from a different driver, our shop will be able to see that, react to it, communicate with that driver, ensure that we can get to that trailer and make the required repair.
Yeah, and I think that's something they just recently started using, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Just because I had a discussion with our head of our shop and kind of talked through that technology. So actually, right before we came up here, he identified that was an opportunity for them to improve.
Right. There's a few questions here on the Zonar, the routing. Again, we're working on the routing, the GPS. So won't go into any details on this call, but know that we are working on getting that improved. Got a question here on what is your average deadhead?
Yeah, it depends on the market, right? There's some markets where deadhead's much higher, could be 20, 25%. In other markets, it's much lower. And it's really going to depend on how the freight is flowing in those specific markets. And as freight becomes a little bit more challenging to find, I think we've got to do a better job of running less empty miles. And then there's some markets where you have a customer who has a great need and has a lot of freight to move and would prefer us just come back empty and is willing to pay for that, then we'll do that. And so we've just got to remain nimble in the market and react to where our customer needs are. So there isn't one magic number of empty miles that we're targeting. It just depends on what works for our business. We're always targeting a certain revenue per truck per day, and if we can achieve it with a certain deadhead, then we will. But in this type of market that we're headed into, we would expect the deadhead percentage to improve on a year-over-year basis.
Right. Question here from Dave in regards to the after hours. Will that include road service for our vendors? And I think we're already actually using a third party to kind of help right now with the peak times for the on-road, which would be the shop support.
Yeah, we were a little bit behind on staffing that role. And so I think we've been able to make a lot of progress there. Now we're in the process of training those individuals so we can have some more support on the on-road team. And we're actually working on even having a Spanish queue where someone who's more comfortable speaking in Spanish will have the ability to find a Spanish speaker. So that's into work, should be coming soon.
Right. Here's a question I think we could, put any concerns to bed. Are owner ops in danger of pay decreasing with contract market now softening?
Yeah, there's no, we have no intent of adjusting the owner operator pay down.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to be very cautious about when we do pay increases because we know that our intent is never to take it backwards. Now, the rate does change as fuel prices change, but I think you would understand that.
Right.
Yeah.
See if there's anything else here we need to hit.
Any other pressing matters you can see?
It just a lot on just the same things we've already hit on, but
Yeah.
It's just kind of a lot to go through here. We could probably wrap it up.
Okay. Well, hey, I just want to again express my gratitude to the great men and women who make Swift what it is. It's just a pleasure to work with this company, and the team is fantastic. I've been able to go out with Jim to visit terminals over the last several months. That's always the best experience, to be able to see our people, hear from them, see our drivers. We've now been to every terminal, and so we're going to start the trips going again. But excited about what the future holds, and really look forward to closing this year strong.
Yeah, and hey, congrats to everyone. We did a great job kind of dealing with COVID the last 2 years. It's been kind of a wild 2-year ride, but I feel like we, really made the best of it. Took advantage of the market we were in. Everyone kind of just rolled up their sleeves and got things figured out. A lot of adapting, a lot of changes, over the last couple of years. But kind of excited to see, where we go, because I feel like we got the right team in place and great group of drivers driving for us. Safety's better than ever. This company's on the right track. So thanks for all you're doing out there.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.